Riles, with cricket, when it start for you? What was the point where you sort of thought cricket? I like this game, or do you like it even now?
Yeah, no. I'm trying to think when I first got into cricket. I think my first ever, I don't know why it is, my first memory of cricket is the 2003 World Cup. I think that must have been the age where I started paying attention to cricket on TV a bit more. And then that summer, Dad signed me up at Dartfordians, actually.
Shout out Dartfordians, my old club as well.
They didn't have an established cult section at the time, so it was they didn't have an under 12s age group. So I ended up moving to Bexley because I wanted to play some like competitive league cricket.
Yeah.
So it was probably about 12 where it all started, probably from watching a bit of cricket on TV and then mainly getting stuck in at Bexley after a little stint at Dartfordians.
Yeah, and have you always been an off spinner? Did you sort of start as an off spinner, or?
For about a year, I was a seam bowler during my wind ball years. Richard O'Sullivan taught me how to bowl some beautiful outswing, and then said, "Actually, no, you're not going to get very far bowling this. So you should probably
very honest."
So as long as I've been playing like hardball cricket, I bowled off spin. But I did have a phase of bowling a wonderful outswing at about 11.
How it all could have been so different if you bit the big opening seamer, doing a little bit, and then yeah. So obviously it's interesting because it's quite a craft bowling spin, and I guess that's when you sort of become in like you can't really bowl spin if you're a wimble player. You just sort of when you start playing hardball cricket, that's when you see yourself as a spinner, if that makes sense. Because a lot of times kids that play with wimbles, you won't get much purchase on it. So they just try and throw it at the ball as quick as they can.
No, I guess you see a lot of the under 11s and slightly younger, they all generally try to bowl fast, don't they?
Yeah.
You see the odd person try and bowl spin, but generally, boys haven't got the power, or boys and girls haven't got the power in their bodies to be able to generate enough energy to bowl spin. So it's just easier to run in and try and bowl fast, isn't it?
I think I think it'll be a generational thing though, because now you're seeing 2020 kick off so much, and the most successful bowlers are traditionally now slower bowlers, spin bowlers. I think we're going to see a kind of increase in young spinners, especially leg spinners. There's a lot of youngsters coming through. I think it's because of the grip, and like you're saying, with an off spinner grip, it's hard to get revs on the ball, but to kind of bare claw it and wrap your wrist around one, I think we're going to start to see an increase of that. But like you're saying, when you're getting into the game 2002, 2003. There was only a handful of world-class spinners to really look at and learn from, I suppose. Yeah,
I think it's a fair point. I do agree, actually. You see a lot more kids try and bowl leg spin.
Mm.
No, I've tried to bowl leg spin, and I find it impossible to bowl leg spin.
I can't.
Yeah, some of the boys and girls that we work with, like me and Dave work with, they'll try and bowl leg spin. They'll bowl half decent leg spin, but they cannot bowl an off spinner. I just can't get my head around that.
Yeah, I'm in awe of like young leggies.
Yeah,
I get the 9, 10, 11 years old who are able to get up and down, turn the ball. I'm just there like, I wish I could do that.
There's so many roles, honestly.
A leg spinner is allowed to be garish as well. They're allowed to have the big hair, the hair bands, the Zampas of the world, the leopard print, because you're a leggy. You are the flair player within your team, within your squad.
You are the flair player.
You are.
So you would say that the spinner in the team when Peterson was playing, Peterson wasn't the flair player.
Well, no, what I'm saying is, if he was going to be, if you had to look at that team and you go, who's the leggy? You're going to go, well, the guy with the old blue stripe down the back of his head. Yeah, he is. That's what a leg spinner's about. A bit of character, a bit of pizzazz.
Class, but yeah, Riles is right. Actually, we've got quite a lot of good young leg spinners in our the courses that we run, haven't we? That they take to it so naturally. Like you give a ball in around and they just start doing that. It's like, I can't do that. But yeah, taking it back to yourself then, mate. When was it when you started to think? Because obviously you play football as well when you were younger. When was it that sort of cricket was becoming the route for you?
Not till quite late, actually. I know a few of the boys that I ended up playing with at Kent were in the county setup from like under 11s. But I didn't make a single. Well, I didn't get into the county setup if you like until I was 16. So actually, my first 5 years of playing cricket at Bexley, literally that, just playing with my age group and then playing a little bit of adult cricket on a Saturday. So It wasn't until I was 16 when I got picked in the then Kent under-17 squad. And then the following winter got put onto the academy that I actually had to, not that I was ever going to pick football, but I actually gave up football at 17 when I was in the academy, just to basically dedicate all my efforts into being on the academy at Kent. And then within 3 years of playing for the under-16 or under-17 team, I was making my debut for Kent. So actually it was quite a quick rise, if you like.
Yeah, I think that's quite
late.
Yeah, I think that's quite symptomatic of the skill as well. If you're an off spinner, you tend to spend so long honing your craft, and you get to a point where with a game where you're so comfortable and you're bowling well that actually you do see quite a quick acceleration through the gears of that in that skill. The reason I mentioned football is because Raz is an absolute cat in goal. Remember we did indoor football, and it was just I couldn't score past him. But yeah, no, it's interesting, like you say, that because it's quite different. Because most people you hear they get in the age group quite young. They normally start around 9, 10, go right up through in the pathway, and then they sort of it's interesting.
I'm not saying that there's one or the other way to do it. Like someone like Adam Ball, for example, was in the Kent age group squads from about 8 years old, but he was naturally very good at kind of 10 or 11, whereas I was not a county age group standard cricketer at 10 or 11. But by the time I was 16, the experiences I'd had playing various cricket, school cricket, Colts cricket, bit of adult cricket like 4th 11, 3rd 11 cricket for Bexley. I was ready to make that step up. That's kind of the message I always give to a lot of the boys at Bexley. Some of them that are disappointed they might not got picked in a county squad. Well, actually, we all develop at very different speeds.
Massively. And I think touching on being a spinner and kind of jumping into men's cricket, I think that can be quite a tough transition as well, especially if you're 11, 12 years old and you've kind of had success as a spinner. Although, let's be honest, at that age, if you're putting the ball in the rough area, it doesn't really matter what you're doing with it. You're going to get relative success. But getting into men's cricket at an early age as a spinner, you learn quite a lot, in terms of pace and about control, because you've got nowhere to hide. If a bloke wants to go after you at a young age, sometimes you've got no option. You're just there and feeding that. So that's quite an interesting, thing that you are playing a lower level of men's cricket early, especially as a spinner, and that's probably going to be helping you. Well, I would imagine anyway.
Yeah, I mean, there was two elements to it really. I remember a year, I think it might have been under 14s at Bexley. So the Colts cricket I was playing on a Friday was with a small ball. Then I'd play for the 4th 11 on a Saturday with a full-size men's ball. And it sounds stupid, but actually at that age, getting used to transitioning to the bigger ball was actually probably underestimated.
Massively.
But also in men's cricket, if you keep lobbing it up and they keep hitting it for 6, then eventually the captain and all the adults you're playing with are going to go, right, actually get this bloke off because he's basically leaking runs. Whereas in Colts cricket, it's like 4 overs, or it's very prescriptive. Like every team might go, right, everyone's going to bowl 3 overs, or if you are going to bowl, you're only going to bowl 4 overs in a game anyway. But men's cricket allowed you to bowl more overs, but also you had to kind of earn them overs a bit more because you weren't just going to be allowed to bowl and leak runs if you were bowling badly.
Absolutely. And also you find a way, didn't you? You find a way, like you say, if someone in cold cricket, you toss the ball up, and if someone gets after you, it's 1 every 3 games. Realistically, you don't get someone every game. But in men's cricket, when it starts kind of a bit more consistent, you adapt. And actually, as a spinner, I think you probably agree, Raz, one of the biggest skills you need is to be adaptable, more so than probably any other discipline, because there'll be times when your best ball will go for 6. So what do you do in that situation?
Oh yeah, I've had that a few times. No, yeah, it is. Part of a spinner, a lot of it, most of the time, is not having lots of tricks. It's about being tactically aware, like you say, being adaptable, and actually being able to make subtle changes, whether it's your field, maybe the pace you bowl, whatever it is. Whereas other skills within cricket might require lots of different areas, if you like. So as a batter, you might need lots of different shots. Whereas as a spinner, especially at a young age, I'm always quite big on can you nail the stop ball, but also learn the tactical side of it quite quickly, because actually they're the tools that you've got that people take for granted. Little subtle changes of the field, putting your boundary fielders in the right place and learning where they should be early on is really, really useful. I know something that we have tried to do this winter with a lot of the bowlers we work with, Dave. Actually understand where you need fielders on the boundary to start with, and then when you can move them. and how you can manipulate it to different batters. So the weaker batters that don't hit over the top, you can have the fielders up, but might have them square or whatever, or the big brutes, you might just go right.
Yeah, I think when it comes to deep fielders, and it comes to a field for a spinner in general, the guys on the boundary, I think a common mistake is that bowlers, they see it as a defensive element. They say, oh, okay, they're there because I've either bowled a drag down or I've maybe tossed the ball a little bit too wide, given some freedom. Which be a very element. I'm getting some really bad feedback on these bad boys.
Yeah. Occasionally, go on. Just keep trying. Yeah, so the audio came through a bit strange then. There you go.
No. But just to finish that point off, having the awareness from a young spinner's point of view of the field playing such a major part in an attacking sense for a spinner, I think is so underestimated. And it's not just those traditional fielders of either a man in short catching or a slip. It can be that the people on the rope, and it can be kind of creating that pressure and setting a batter up for that big hit and that catch out in the deep.
It's a bit of cat and mouse as well. You want, as a spinner, you want a field that you're comfortable with, so it allows you to bowl whatever ball you want to bowl. But you're also trying to negate the strengths of the batsman. So sometimes you might bowl at a batsman, you've got no idea what his strengths are. The more you play against the same player, you know that so-and-so reverse sweeps or someone else likes using their feet, and you can set your field to start with. But certainly as young spin bowlers, a lot of the times when they seem to go into a fail, it's usually because actually they've set a really bad field to start with. Very quick, and then the catch bowling. Actually, they just set a sensible field and start understanding what a sensible field is to start, and then working out how to use that to their advantage. It's a massive skill. It doesn't require you to bowl anything other than your stop ball, which is the best bit about it.
Yeah.
No, it's fascinating, and I think it's like you say, it's about setting a game plan as a bowler, and I think that's what we've tried to work on. Like Raz said, a lot with the lads this year is obviously we've got our skills and we work on our skills, and especially as spinners, we try and hone that craft and get that stop ball well and know a couple of variations, maybe if maybe just a one. But it's about how well you're planned and what your mentality is going into bowling, and how sort of versatile but also thick-skinned are you that you know how to react to certain situations. Because I know you've worked a lot, Raz, with the spinners this year on what happens when someone gets after you. Actually, that's when you need to be quite disciplined and go and know your game plan and stick to that game plan. But taking you back onto yourself, because I know you probably won't like talking about yourself too much. You're a very humble man. But when did you break into the Bexley first team? What age were you when? Because obviously you got into Kent when you were sort of 16, 17. Were you playing a bit of first team cricket at Bexley before then, or was that sort of succinct with getting to Kent?
It kind of mirrored. I think I played my first team game was right at the end of the season when I was 15. Okay. Literally played one game. I don't think I even bowled that many overs. I probably bowled like 2 overs. Like last game of the year, classic. People gone on holiday or back to school. And then the following year when I was 16, it kind of mirrored. So when I was in the Kent under 17 squad, I played a lot of first 11 cricket that year.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting because the level that the Kent first team's at and sort of a lot of the teams they play against probably is similar to just sort of a Kent 2 standard. So it's interesting that your involvement sort of grows in that team, and then that probably gave you a bit of confidence towards playing for Kent, because you're like, if I can do it in this team, then I'm probably not too far off where I need to be. Would you say that's the case, or?
Yeah, I think the Kent Premier League then, still is now, is a decent standard of league. And certainly there are games where you think a lot of these players would still be able to do it at second 11 level, county second 11 level. So taking confidence from success in adult cricket was big for me growing up. Because like you say, you go back into a Kent under 17 game, having just got 3 wickets at the weekend against adults that some of them who have played first class cricket, gives you a lot of confidence. That's why I always like watching the young players move through the adult teams at the right pace, not moving through too quickly so actually they get to a level where they consistently fail. But success at adult cricket as a young player, I think is massive, and regardless of what level you play at. So whether it's success at third 11 level, that for me is good, because actually you're playing against adults that have been playing cricket for years and years and years. So just understanding the benefits you can get from adult cricket, and actually taking that back into your age group stuff if you're in a county age group, for example. So that'd be my.
I think it's away from the physical aspect as well, just that mental toughness that playing, regardless of the stand, just playing against an older competitor. You know, the things that are said, the feeling, the actual, I suppose the aura about it. When you're going out, when you're bowling in that situation, or you're batting in that situation, it's a completely different feel, and it kind of it tames the youth cricket. You know, regardless if you're playing county cricket to a high standard, it's still not going to be as tough, in my opinion, than a bloke coming in at you for the first time with a ball, or coming at you, you know, when you're back. And you know, from a young spinner's point of view, when I was bowling and I kind of got put into men's cricket, I know my game. I started to adapt it very early, and I started bowling quicker, and I started bowling flatter. And it wasn't the case of, oh, I can just get away with launching the ball up in the air and just hoping that I get a catch, or he misses it. It's a case of, oh, actually, I have to get the ball up and down. I have to put something on this ball, or and that would definitely help going back into under 16s, 17s kind of cricket.
Yeah, I think it builds resilience in your game, and it also nurtures nurtures confidence in yourself, because when you take your skills from a cult level to an adult level, regardless of what team you're playing in, it's reaffirming that actually I can do it at an adult level. And that is realistically what cricket is. Cricket is 50 over cricket on a Saturday when you're playing, talking about the area that we're playing in Kent. So if you can take your skill set from a 20 over game at under 15s, under 16s, and you can apply that to a 50 over game in adult cricket, it certainly gives you that confidence. Sort of carrying on for you then, Raj, from getting into the academy, you said 17 was it when you got into the academy?
Yeah, 16, 17 roughly.
Yeah, well, when was it when you sort of started to feel settled? Well, not settled as such, but you felt confident in your skill set at that level and thought, professional cricket is a career for me at this moment? Was there a point with that?
Well, I guess the first year I was in the academy, I then started playing a lot more second 11 cricket for Kent. But again, it was a nice transition because I wouldn't be the senior spinner in the second team. So certainly when I started playing at Kent in the second 11, like Rob Furley was the main spinner in the second team. Obviously Treadwell was the first team spinner. And then there was a lad that come on trial, Mark Lawson, he bowled leg spin, good leg spinner. So actually, my first year in county second 11 cricket, there wasn't any pressure on me. It was kind of like I generally was the 12th player. So in 3 days in second 11 cricket, you can name 12 players, one person doesn't bat. So not that that was great for my batting development, but actually I used to get picked as like the second spinner and the number 12 batter or number 11 batter, but got lots of experience that way and bowled at lots of good players. I remember my first second team game was against Somerset. Somerset didn't have a game that week, so like Nick Compton, when he was at Somerset, he played. There was a lad called Chris Jones who was prolific, but like a good batsman. So actually you start bowling at these first class batsmen in second 11 level, you get a bit more confidence, and as soon as you start getting a few wickets, you start thinking, oh, actually, this game's not any different. You're just playing against slightly better players every time. But the top of off stump doesn't change. A good length doesn't change. That from my point of view, being a spinner was massive, because then you just starting to understand that you just need to get more accurate, more skillful as you go up there.
Did you have that awareness like straight away? Did you get that kind of internal feeling that just be you, just hit your legs, hit your lines, and everything's going to be okay? Or does that come from maybe a little bit of hindsight?
It come from almost hindsight at the time. Well, I learned it from failure essentially, because you start at the top of your mark. You're looking at Nick Compton, who's just about to play for England, and you're thinking, how am I even bowling at this bloke? And then you bowl 2 overs for 20, and then it's that time after you've been taken off where you go, actually, like this game isn't any different. Like, yes, he's very skilled. I just bowled 2 rank overs, probably set a really bad field. But you take them little pockets of failure, if you like, use them experience, and actually the next time it doesn't become quite as scary. It's like anything you're doing for the first time. No, like as human nature is, you don't like doing anything that you don't know. Yeah. There's actually, once you've thrown yourself in and had a couple of experience of it, it becomes a lot easier. And that was the same at every single level. So like my first adult game, I remember being pretty nervous when Jeff Burton, bless him, chucked me the ball for Bexley 4th 11.
Yeah.
But after 5 games, I actually was going up to him asking for the ball rather than kind of nervously waiting at final leg for him to chuck me the ball. It just happened. I think that gets at every level. That happens at every level where you just grow confidence through experience, whether they're good or bad experiences, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And you learn from it. I think it's interesting because we had an interview or a podcast before with a lad called Karanjit Bansal, who has gone into coaching. He played a bit of second team stuff at Notts. And it's interesting because he spoke about when he first went into that environment at second team level, how different it was to anything he's experienced before, and how much that it's kind of strange, but how competitive it was. And that was his first real experience of going into an environment. Did you feel that pressure in a way, like, right, I need to perform here? Or did you feel quite comfortable in the environment that you're at, that I will have chances? Because he said he felt it was quite nervy at the time because it was like you're all competing for these spots in the first team. You're either a youngster trying to get a contract, you're a young player that's doing well for a club side, or you're a pro that's coming to get form. So it's quite. How do you find that?
Yeah, well, I remember the first few years. Well, especially the first year, like every game you turn up with a bag of nerves. But that's natural. You're in a professional environment now, so therefore, the game's still fun, but there's also an element of actually you need to perform as well. If you don't perform, then you can't expect to get picked and get your contract renewed, etc. So there's always that element of kind of pressure on performance from a professional level.
Was there a key moment where you kind of, or a specific age where you realise that it's going, the game is going from like a hobby and something that you've just kind of grown up doing because of that enjoyment to, right, this is my job, this is what I'm going to do now, and I've got to take this a little bit more seriously?
Yeah, well, it wasn't until kind of 3 years into my professional career, if you like, because I signed professional contracts at 18, 19, and then chose to go to uni for 3 years.
Right.
So I had like a season. 2011 was my first year. Played a few first team games because we had a very young squad. There was a lot of opportunities available. And then at the end of that year, decided that I was going to go to uni for 3 years in Kent. Because I'd done reasonably well in first and second 11 cricket, they basically gave me a 3-year university contract. So I still come back every summer and played a lot of second team cricket. Still played a little bit of first team cricket every summer. But it wasn't until I finished uni, and all of a sudden it was just every day down at Kent that it become a job. It's still fun, like still living the dream and doing something that not many people get to do. But all of a sudden there wasn't any other distractions, which in hindsight, again, I'd probably try and give myself some distractions outside of cricket just to take the pressure off. Because once you're in that bubble of every day is a cricket day, it soon becomes not overwhelming, but it becomes a bit full on, if you like. So actually the best players you still hear are doing, open university courses, or they do something in the winter, work experience in the winter, just to get a break from cricket, because you can easily get sucked into that cricket bubble.
Yeah, and that's quite important actually, because we talk about it being such a mental game and being, you need to be prepared every time you walk onto the pitch and in a place mentally where you can execute your skills without feeling that pressure. And if you're living the game every single minute of it, it's interesting because obviously I assume you've watched the test as well, Riles. Have you seen the test? It's crazy that some people love that side of it. Like someone like a Labuschagne or a Smith, they love, but they're rare because they can make the game their love, their passion. And that's obviously because they've had a lot of success that they've allowed themselves to do that. But in most cases, it's good to have that ability to switch off. Did you find that being at uni at somewhere like Loughborough, because the cricket program there is still very full on, did you feel that kept you still on a good path? Because it could have been easy to go from making lots of progress through Kent, getting the first pro deal, and then going to uni somewhere maybe that hasn't got such a big cricket focus, and sort of regressing slightly in your progress. Did you find it helped with that? Yeah,
well, the only reason I went to Loughborough was because of the cricket program. It wasn't because of the university course. The 3 universities I applied for were Loughborough, Durham and Leeds. So I was only ever going to go to a University of Cricket and Excellence, what they call them, UCCEs.
Yeah.
But just decided, also at the time, it was a timing issue as well. The fact that James Treadwell had just been picked for England. I think he captained England for that one 2020 that got rained off. So I was never going to break into the first team within the next 3 years, in my opinion. So I actually took the view, having spoken to coaches about it as well, who were very supportive, just took the view that actually I'm going to try to go to university, get a degree, get something behind me, so that actually when I get to the other end of my career, which I'm at the moment, I had something to fall back on. So actually, I think it proved to be a good decision, to be honest. But I agree. I wouldn't have gone to a university if it didn't have, like world-class cricket facilities or weren't part of the UCCE. Does that make sense?
Yeah. How was the Loughborough experience as a whole?
Yeah, it was good fun. It's the cliche when you start, people go, "Oh, you enjoy it because it goes quick," and it did. Like, I can't believe it was so long ago now. But it was great fun. And anyone that loves cricket as much as I do, like every day at Loughborough, you'd be doing, as part of the cricket academy, you'd be doing something cricket related. So you get your cricket fix every day. But obviously you've got other things to.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that kind of I speak to young players, and regardless if they've got the capability or they're looking to turn pro, furthering that education is one thing, but having the opportunity to have 3 years of that constant, almost it's not always specific coaching contact time, but being around other people who love cricket and being around the opportunity to go, oh, do you want to have a net, or do you want to do this, do you want to do that? Yeah. I think they're so fortunate to have. I'm lucky enough to work at Exeter University, and the facilities are fantastic there as well. So you'll see it all the time. You'll just see a lad from the second team or the third team grab a high performance lad, and you'll just see them netting. And it's not very, in the real world, you get that opportunity all the time. So I would always suggest if you're kind of on the fringes academically going to university, if you think of sports opportunities, get to uni and just have 3 years of potential sport that can again give more opportunities for later on down the road.
I think also in this kind of era of professional cricket, I know we're just talking specifically professional level here, but you see a lot of the boys get signed after they finish uni as well, because that program, and obviously Exeter, and when I was at Exeter and Southampton were the two other unis that were involved in the one day cup, if you like, the Bucks Cup. You see guys. I remember Exeter. Tom Abel was at Exeter when I played against them. They actually beat Loughborough. And you see these guys get signed after they finish uni as well. Like Rory Burns is a great example. Got released at academy at Surrey. Got released, went to Cardiff Uni, broke every record on university history lists, and then got re-signed by Surrey once he'd finished uni, and now he's out in the back for England. So there's a lot of success stories to come out of.
The systems are changing now as well. And there's a lot of elite coaches going into universities because they get that opportunity to kind of create that winter program in a set environment. So you like you're saying, there is definite opportunity. I think the MCCU and the ECB, that there's going to be a different package, and that's now changing throughout the country. So I think we're actually going to see probably a few more players come from that sort of Rory Burns-esque pathway of playing cricket to a specific level, being told probably, I know you're not going to do it, and then 3 years later going, oh, actually, we were wrong, you're amazing, can we have a signature, please?
Yeah. It's
a unique game, cricket, in terms of, like, we talk about peak years for performance being from 24, 25 to 32. So actually, if you go away and mature and you have those years at university to experience life, living on your own, become self-sufficient, and education on the side, so you're not 100% cricket, but then you still have that program alongside it actually can help you develop quicker and better, because you're getting everything you need. You're not living in this bubble of just like what is academy cricket. You go out and you see the real world. So no, it's interesting. So taking you back to your own career, Ross. So finishing uni, obviously game's in a good place. You play with Loughborough, played against some good sides, played with some good people. You sort of come back to Kent, and then that would have been the end of the 3-year contract they'd originally signed. Yeah. Was it a case of right back into the twos to prove to a new contract, or was it kind of like, right, we're happy with what you've done while you've been away?
It got very complicated very quick. So I went back for pre-season in my third year. Went back for pre-season. Was bowling quite well. Then I took 9 wickets in the match against Sussex for Loughborough against Sussex in like the pre-season warm-up game, friendly games. And then we had Loughborough playing Kent.
You said 9 wickets in a pre-season game?
it was like the first class friendlies before the start of the season.
So that again, that just shows that you don't need a wearing pitch to be a decent spinner.
I will say that we were using the last net wicket that Sussex had been using for pre-season. It was a very tired wicket at the end of their pre-season. So yeah, I took nine wickets against them, and then we actually played Kent the following week. So it was Loughborough v Kent, and Kent said to play for Loughborough, obviously because I wasn't playing the first team. I don't think I got any wickets, but I bowled reasonably well. And then after the first game of the season, got a phone call from Rob Key saying, "What's your university schedule like? We want you to come back and play the next championship game." So the first month, so like during May, I was playing for the first 11 at Kent and also trying to do exams. I remember doing an exam at the ground. This must have been like end of May. Had to get to the ground for 6 o'clock in the morning, and the assistant coach, Phil Ralph, was my invigilator. So he had to go up to Loughborough to get permission or to get training to be my invigilator. So he had to sit in the tea room for about an hour and a half while I did one of my exams before the morning of a game. I think we played Leicester at home, and I was doing an exam in the morning and then bowling 20 overs during the day. So
how did you perform that game? Do you remember?
It was a very, very complicated month or so to complete my university studies. It got to the last part of my university degree, like the summer exams in year 3 are usually pretty important. And actually my mind was somewhere else. But I ended up finishing with a 2-1 at Loughborough, and then doing pretty well that year. I took 60 wickets that year.
See, I love that, because from an outsider's point of view, just saying that you're going to go playing for that game, regardless of that performance, your head is definitely and rightfully is going to be all over you. But then people don't see that. You know, you don't hear it from the commentators, you don't hear it from the supporters, you don't really see it or feel it from the opposition's point of view. And people forget that professional athletes, professional cricketers, they're just people. They're just men and women who are gifted and work hard at a specific skill set, and they are now playing within that role. But they're no different. You know, the world continues to spin the same way. They still need to eat. They still need to do their exams. They still need to pay their bills. They're still just human beings. And it's just to hear that, to go through an exam, to get one. You know, it's just the coach has got to, look after you. And then I would imagine that paper goes down. Well, forget about that, because you're going to be bowling from the top end, and your role is going to be this, this, and this. I mean, it's quite an overwhelming thing to be going through.
Yeah.
I quite enjoyed that summary. Can we just bottle that summary up and just post that on our social media? That was
clip it.
I mean, it was a busy month. It was a whirlwind month. I did end up doing 3 exams. I can't remember what they called it. In situ, I think they called it. Where basically one of the coaches had to invigilate or sit in a room while I filled out my exams. But it was good fun. Certainly created some stories and stuff. So.
It's interesting.
Also, I'd sit the exam before the exams even happened. So therefore, I'd finish the exam, if I started at 6:30, I finished at 8:30. I'd have to hand my phone to the coach. I couldn't have my phone, would they?
Yeah, let them know what's coming in the test.
Text all my mates saying, the question about so-and-so is this.
Breeze a rocket. Good luck, boys.
I learned how to live without my phone for a month as well. Just keep getting confiscated off me.
You must have felt so clear, like by the end of that month, not having any exams and knowing that because you've had all these opportunities through Kent, that you're probably going to go down the cricket path and the opportunity is going to be there for you. It must have been the hardest month, but then the most incredible feeling just out the back end of that. Like the sense that everything just drops off.
It was an incredible year, really. I remember doing reasonably well for the first couple of months, and then going up to Lords and bowling at England before one of the test matches. I remember one of the newspapers, I can't remember which one it was, basically wrote that I was going to play in the next test because they'd seen me at Lords, but all I was doing was net bowling because I'd been doing well.
Did you have England stash on at the time, or were you wearing?
No, I just had my Kent stash on. Yeah, they gave me an England shirt, like training warm-up shirt to keep. But yeah, it was a proper whirlwind couple of months.
Fair play. Because like you say, you probably got a rhythm, and then just sort of went. And that was when Treadwell was playing for England, was it? That was why the opportunity, or did Kent
he played a lot of one-day cricket for England, and then he basically took a bit of a break from 4-day cricket. He was at the peak of his powers in one-day cricket. He was unbelievable in one-day cricket. And he wasn't as effective in 4-day cricket as he'd like. So I think he played a little bit of second-team cricket, but really focused on.
Because he went for that purple patch where no one could understand why he was so successful, and I remember watching him, and everyone was cracking on about it was so great just to see an authentic spinner coming back in it, and it just shows you if you're at top of your craft, and then you have other people like, yeah, but he doesn't do much with it. He just goes up and down, and you're like, well, it almost paved the way before Swan to kind of almost highlight the fact that you didn't need to be a Muralitharan, a Warne type bowler. You could just be an orthodox spin bowler, hitting their lines consistently. You don't have to, we went on that search for a left arm spinner for so long within this country. I think players like Treadwell must have just been said, like, by the way, I'm pretty good at what I do, but I know what I'm doing, boys. Give me a chance. So
I'm worth a look.
Yeah, I'm worth a look indeed. Yeah.
Well, that was him, and he was always called Tricky Tready, wasn't he? He was just so good at changing his pace, and in one-day cricket being completely unpredictable, but bowling the same ball. You see him, obviously we'd see him a bit more in the nets, but in matches he could bowl the same ball with the same action, but it would be 10 mile an hour difference in its speed, and that's what made him so successful, and the fact that he could land it literally anywhere on the pitch that he wanted to. I remember seeing him doing a one-day training practice with Min Patel, our spin bowling coach, and he'd have 3 cones set up, one in the Yorker length, one on a good length, and then one back of a length. And during his run-up, Min would shout, it was either which colour cone or which length. And he had like a streak of about 22 on the trot when he hit the cone. And it was like watching something on like a computer game. And it's moments like that where you just watch.
They're the things that you don't register, you don't quite see when you're watching it on TV. You don't see those subtle variations and those small adjustments, but it's also the late adjustments. So even when the batter has either come out the crease or they've gone deeper in the crease, those sort of triggers in a decent spinner's mind just allows him to go bang, full, bang, couldn't drag it back. No, I'm going to hold the pace back. I think that gets lost in translation on TV and from a spectator's point of view, because I think what young spinners look for, they love watching the orthodox delivery, then the carrot ball, the arm ball, the one that goes the other way. It's actually those balls, they're great to have in your armoury, but those tiny adjustments and that awareness to what's happening around you and those externals, being the batter, that's the definition for me anyway of what makes a good spinner and a great spinner.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think Treadwell's control of whatever ball he wants to bowl was like world class, and that's why he played for England a lot. He wasn't a massive spinner of the ball, but like I said, he could watch a batsman and take 10 yards of pace off whilst he was going through his action in the middle of the crease. So he was by far the best one-day bowler I've ever seen, ever played with. Say ever seen, that's a big shout, but certainly in county cricket, his numbers every single game were unbelievable. There's no surprise why he played so many games for England. He played a few Test matches as well and did reasonably well, but he was never going to be the number one spinner in Test cricket, just because I don't think he's face fit in many ways. But he gave it a good go. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, how much did you work with him? Obviously, you worked with Min, the two of you. Did he give you lots of support and help, or was he sort of person who went about his business and you went about yours? What was it like, that dynamic?
No, we were never. I got asked the question a lot. Like, we were never like enemies or anything like that. Like, I know we're competing for the same spot, and there was times where he'd get dropped and I'd get picked, or I'd get dropped and he'd get picked. And we just had a really good relationship of going, like hard luck, good luck kind of thing. Like when we were both players, we didn't do a lot of work together in terms of like technical coaching work. We do a lot of drills together with a coach. But then the back end of his career, he was turning a bit more to coaching. So I did a bit of work with him, especially the last couple of years. And as he was transitioning from player to coach, just because he had so much knowledge. It comes back to that saying that you hear all coaches say to players, like when you've got a special guest in or whatever, make sure you ask questions. They've got lots of knowledge, they want to give it to you. It was very much a case of that for me, just asking a lot to him about his opinions on different things, his philosophies on different things. In hindsight, I might have done it earlier in my career and sat down with him. But I guess when it was a player-player kind of relationship, I didn't want to get in his way in many ways, because he was like my idol growing up anyway. So
it's such an interesting thing to say, because realistically, he's still the exact same person. He's just got a different title. From one week he's a player to the next week he's a coach. The concept and the ideas and like you said, the philosophies of which he's had, they're still there. But from where you're sat, the line of questioning can be seen in so many different ways, because like you're saying, you in essence want his spot.
Yeah.
From a player's point of view, would he be happy enough to sit there and go, oh yeah, well, I like to do A, B, and C. Oh, cheers, I'm going to do that. Now you can sod off because I've got your shirt. That's very nice. But the thing that I want to know is when he was at his peak in one day, did you kind of think to yourself, right, I'm going to look to hone my skills at the longer format because that might be a different kind of avenue or way into this thing?
Yeah, well, my initial way in was playing a lot of football. That year that I broke into the first team was playing predominantly 4-day cricket. I played a bit of 1-day cricket, either because he was playing for England or we played together and we had like big boundaries at Canterbury, so it favoured playing spinners. But I definitely made a conscious effort of making sure my skills in 4-day cricket were nailed down so that I stayed in the team. I just, rightly or wrongly, I accepted that I wasn't going to oust the premier 1-day spinner in England in 1-day cricket. I just accepted I was going to play as a second spinner or play when he was playing for England. There was opportunities. Again, rightly or wrongly, but that was kind of the path that I chose to take.
Yeah, I won't stay as too long, but that season where you took 60 wickets and you were feeling good, you were bowling good, you were coming off the back of, like I say, finishing putting everything to the university chapter to bed, focusing on the cricket chapter and sort of hitting that prime. What point did you start to think about England at that stage? And was there any points when did they start making any sort of contact? Because when you're taking that many wickets on the circuit, out bowling pretty much everyone from a spin bowling perspective, they must be keeping tabs and must be. Did they make any contact with you over that season, or was it just a case of you thought it might come? Did you think, or were you just focused? What was it? A lot of questions in one there.
You asked about 40 questions there, Dave.
That sounds like me.
Proper journalist you are. During the summer, I don't remember much contact. I think they used to keep tabs on me via me and all the coaches. And then back end of the summer, they indicated to Ken that I was going to be on the England Lions trip that winter. But that was it. Apart from inviting me into bowl at England at Lords before one of the Test matches, that was kind of the only contact I had really. But that year, I enjoyed a lot of media interest or hype, if you like. There was a lot of that was quite entertaining when. It was a year that basically Swan had just retired. Mo and Ali had just taken over as the number one spinner, or had got himself in as the number one spinner that year. But in the lead up to one of the Test series, there was a lot of speculation, if you like, about who the next spinner would be. I always remember one day at training, we had like Sky Sports News on the TV screen, and it was like Sky Sports did the 4 candidates for the next Test, and it was like Ali, Rashid, Gareth Batty and me. And naturally, for the next 3 days, the boys were taking them out of me. But again, it was all quite entertaining stuff that I kind of just took on the chin. I didn't really believe I was ever going to get picked for England at that stage, but certainly gave me something to talk about to my mates.
It's great to see though that with Trevor and yourself, was there a particular coach or a particular strategy within Kent to be producing two spinners back to back who were in line or having success at each level? Was there a coaching like quartet there, or was it just a case of two blokes just turning up and who were decent at that craft?
Honest answer, I don't really know. So between kind of 16 and me getting into the Kent first team, I did a lot of work with Min Patel, playing with him at Bexley or playing against him, but would always speak to him on a Saturday if we played against him in the league. So I worked quite closely with him, and he's still involved at Kent now. Very knowledgeable guy on spin bowling. Actually, one of the gurus that I would talk to a lot about spin bowling. But other than that, I honest answer, I don't really know. I think it was all just a bit of a coincidence, really. But certainly when I first broke into the Kent staff at second team, I was always bowling a lot of overs, whether that was a directive from above to make sure that I kept bowling in second team cricket rather than someone else bowling, maybe. But certainly at a younger age, the spinners that get newly signed onto the staff, especially playing second team cricket, you can get lost behind an army of fast bowlers and trialist bowlers, whereas actually you still need to be bowling plenty of overs in second team cricket. I certainly did that growing up.
Yeah. So from that season, then within your game, how did you feel? So that was like the catalyst. Did you think, like, having that big season, that 60-wicket season? So going into the next year, what was your thought process? How were you sort of looking, right, I'm going to get that spot's mine now, or were you still thinking, I've got to nail that spot down?
Yeah, good question. That was clearly the best year that I had. It was the best I bowled, best I've ever bowled, period. That year, I got into a bit of a purple patch, especially middle of the season, bowling a lot of overs, taking a lot of wickets. But again, it happened so fast that by the winter, I'd been picked on the England line, so went to Sri Lanka before Christmas, went to South Africa after Christmas, and didn't get a time to really take stock. Before I knew it, I was back into the county season the following April. I didn't really have a time to sit back and reflect, which maybe I needed or should have had. Again, in hindsight, especially having 3 pretty full-on winters previous. At Loughborough, and then literally a county season, bit of a whirlwind season, then get picked straight on an England set up. Didn't really have time to take stock. In hindsight, at the time, I didn't think this. I was absolutely buzzing. I was like living the dream. But again, it comes back to that. What have I learned from that? That's certainly an observation that I'd make.
Yeah, how was that experience going with the Lions, being in that environment with what other spinners were picked as well as that? So what was the experience and what other spinners were there with you? Can you remember?
Trying to think the other spinners. Adil Rashid was the main senior spinner. Stephen Parry was on that trip.
Yep.
But mainly playing one-day cricket. I don't know if he come on the Red Bull part of the tour. Zafar Ansari was like a spinning all-rounder, and then he went on to play for England the following winter, I think. So I think that was it. So there was a few spinners on that trip. But again, it was just another bit, like we said before. It was just another step up into the unknown. And again, the standard of cricket, of course, it improves because you're playing against, the best of professional cricket now, or the guys that are next in line. So when I played my England Lions game against South Africa, they had Navuma playing, Rabada played in that game, Chris Morris, some proper name drops here.
Both like to hear.
Both our team and the South Africa team had some unbelievable names in it that either had played Test cricket before that or went on to be pretty good Test players. So again, it was just a step up in a level, or
it kind of brings that new level of anxieties again. It's going back to when you're playing your first 14 game. It's the same principle. It's just it's the same. It's the same game, and I think having an understanding of that, or having a knowledge or a composure to that, can only be beneficial. But on the flip side, it must be such a great feeling to have it again. When you've been a kid, you've gone through your academy, you've gone through university stuff, you're having success in the pro game, and then all of a sudden you're getting those same internal feelings as like you did when you were 13, 14. There's a purity about that cricket kind of provides. And I love the fact that in our sport, you can be playing, international A cricket against big names, but on the same basis, you can be playing club cricket and also be facing someone of an international stature of an overseas player. Those feelings and, like I say, those anxieties, they're never completely gone. There's always a new experience to kind of create of going, oh Christ, this feeling again. I've missed you.
And every single time you get that feeling, you don't remember how you solved it previously. So actually, you just end up there.
You go back into that. Oh no!
Like calling at someone that you think is far too good for you, and then actually, like you say, it's the same feeling that you had when you were 15 playing in the fourth 11. But it's just getting through that initial period and then relaxing into that level. I think that's where a lot of the best players are successful quickly. They relax into that new level quicker than others. You see a lot of, especially on TV, so at test level or whatever, the guys that make their debuts and make silly mistakes just because it's tension, it's nerves. The guys that come in, someone like Alistair Cook, I remember him coming in and making 100 on debut. He just come in and relaxed into the situation and just rattled off another 100. And that's, like you say, it's the same feeling as you are when you're a youngster. Just being able to deal with it.
Just waiting, like you say, you're waiting for that reaffirmation. You're waiting for that success to come, just to prove to yourself that, right, I'm in this environment. I'm comfortable. I can do it here. A lot of people, like I say, some people do that through their scores. Some people do that through maybe taking 5 wickets. Others do it through, like you said, maybe you feel like, right, I'm bowling really well. You know you're bowling well. So it's fascinating really to see how, and everyone's different. I guess some people will feel that affirmation straight away. Some people may not ever. Some people may get out and go into every game thinking, I'm still not up to this level, but that might make them play better. You don't know. It's interesting. So then from playing, what point did you sort of like, because you've always been quite a strategic person when it comes to cricket. You've always understood the game, and you were tasked with being a captain a lot for Ken, weren't you? Like whether it's in 2 stuff or obviously captaincy at Bexley now. Do you think your game always suited being a captain, or do you think it was something that you sort of picked up as you went along?
Good question. I guess at a younger age, I felt I was pretty good tactically. So especially captaining, I didn't captain much at Bexley, but certainly at school cricket, Kent under 17s, I captained them in my second year. At that level, it was less about leadership. It was more about the tactical side of it. And having experienced that at a young age, I ended up captaining at Loughborough, which was a bit more of a leadership role, management role, if you like. Not management, but player management, because you've got a squad of players that you've got to pick from with you and the coach and whoever else. So it becomes tactical and player management. And then when I come back to Kent, playing a lot of second team cricket, just end up, I guess, because I was playing second team cricket a lot, because as a spinner, I generally would always get picked in the second team, whereas some of the seamers might get rotated or they get injured. Because I was just a constant in the second team, I probably stumbled into captaincy. But again, it come down to understanding the tactical side of it.
Do you think the volume of second team cricket is kind of benefited you from a spinner's point of view, and just learned that over, the volume of O's that you must have bowled? I've spoken to a few players who've kind of been fringe first team players, and they've kind of been in and out of that first team, or a 12th man, or in and around that environment. They kind of miss out on just the game time. And like I wanted to pick up earlier about bowling loads, about bowlers, and they're so strict on it. From a spinner's point of view, where does your, putting your kind of coaching hat on, where do you kind of lead on how many overs a spin bowl should be bowling? Is it masses of volumes, or is it, what do you think?
What am I allowed to say? What is the official ECB line on spin bowling workload?
I wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah, my opinion is that I appreciate, especially at younger age, when bodies are developing and getting stronger, and kids are going through that growth spurt, then actually you've got to be careful on how much stress you put on the body with bowling. Clearly, bowling fast puts more stress on the body of bowling spin, but there's still an element of stress if you've got a decent action and put put plenty of energy on the ball, but I'd still come back to bowl as much as you can. That's what I used to do. I used to bowl as many overs before a one-day game as I would in a one-day game. That was just my way of getting loose in the morning and getting confidence. I was a big confidence bowler, so I'd like to bowl lots of overs in the morning until I got to a point where it was coming out my hand quite nicely, because then I'd go into a game and it would be.
Did you ever struggle with when things weren't coming out as well as you wanted to? I think there's a definite feeling from a spinner's point of view of that snap and that release, and just unfortunately there's times where you bowl and you go, oh, that felt great out of the hand, and then you see it go over the rope, and that's just the nature of the beast of being a spinner. But was there a time where you're like, why isn't this working? Anything like that for you?
Yeah, there were lots of periods like that, and generally they were in around periods of the summer where I wasn't bowling as much. So a bit like you say, I was either going around with the first team carrying drinks and bowling a few overs, like between innings or whatever, or in the morning the nets. And certainly, I found that last year actually, having stopped playing at kind of middle of May. Like playing once a week for Bexley and not really bowling during the week at nets. Definitely got that bit more where, because you haven't bowled as much, you don't get that rhythm, that feel. And some spinners are different. I know some guys, they like bowling less, whereas other guys like me like bowling a lot and getting that rhythm and feel. I think it's individual to each person, but I was definitely one when I felt like I was not confident, I'd try and bowl more, because actually, whether that was detrimental at the time or not, I felt like that was the way that I'd go about solving kind of a lack of confidence.
Almost kind of searching and finding that groove and that subconscious feeling of what you do. I look at a lot of test teams now, and like the one that comes to my mind is Dom Best. Like he went into the test side, has a great little run, and then Mason Crane, the same thing. They're travelling around, and I just kind of think as a young spinner, they're not bowling them. They're just not, and then they get put back into an environment where they feel that they should be succeeding, but they probably bowled 40 to 50% deliveries unknowingly, and it's the same as from a 17, 18-year-old in an academy to then maybe not going to university. Without knowing or not, you're probably hitting 50 balls, 100 balls, 150 balls a week just by playing a midweek game or a game on a Saturday and a Sunday. When you start taking those little pieces of that puzzle away from a player, unknowingly, that's going to clearly mess with your routines, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, like the point you made about Dom Best, for example, he obviously made his debut for England a couple of years ago, and then went back to Somerset, couldn't get in the team because Leach was in the team and doing well. And then there's no coincidence that he spent this year on loan at Yorkshire, bowled a load of overs, and he's just bowled England to victory in South Africa in one of the test matches. No coincidence that bowling overs gives you confidence and therefore a better chance of being successful at every level. I still wouldn't go away from that philosophy for any young spinner, actually. I guess there is a certain roof where bowling too many overs can be detrimental, but generally bowling more is only going to be beneficial.
I think it's bowling with a purpose and bowling to get that feel. Like when you're in that rhythm and you feel that you're consistently releasing the ball well and you're feeling good and you got that feel, that's when you're happy with yourself. So I guess it's bowling till you feel that. And actually, that's when you say, right, players bowl more when you're in that zone and you want to find that zone, or maybe you're finding that zone, like you say. But bowlers who maybe find that zone more naturally, like someone who's more a bit older, who's already honed their craft, has that consistency. Because I think with bowling, it's about being able to be consistent, repeatable. And that only comes from repetition consistently, doing the whole process, not just, like we say, we want to break actions down and work on things and stuff like that. But actually, the reason we break it down is so the end goal is consistent and correct for that player. So I guess it's about finding how little they need to do that. Obviously, going into coaching now, Robs.
Yeah.
How do you think your playing career has impacted you as a coach? Do you think it has in any way? Do you think there's anything you've taken from your playing career that helped you as a coach? Anything that you think has actually been detrimental because you may be coming from a, what would you say, anything that's...
Oh, well, I definitely think my playing career has shaped how I'm going to coach or how I currently coach. Certainly try to learn off different coaches that I've worked under and taken some things that I've liked from all of them and thought about the things that I didn't like and kind of try to stay away from that. I guess that shapes my philosophy, if you like. But I guess my key thing at the moment is, as a coach, is the player improving. And that doesn't always require me to give them lots of technical input. Improvement might be actually they go away from a session being more confident because they hit a few more balls out the middle of the bat and not worrying too much on technical, actually just hitting high volumes or whatever it is. So actually just working individually with each player. And as a coach, trying to work out, right, how is this guy going to, or guy or girl, how are they going to improve by the end of the session? And what does improvement look like for them? Because again, that's a big thing as a player, having watched other players be coached or in a training session. For them, success is very different to what the coach would deem as success or improvement.
What does improvement look for them? I think that's really highlighting that, you know, you're identifying the individual, the person, rather than just that generic player. And I think there's a feel to that, and it kind of gives it a little bit of, that, like I said, that individuality to a coach's mentality and a player's mentality. Because you're going to build that rapport. But I think that's a really, really strong message to have as for any coach who's going into the game.
Don't get me wrong. I've got lots of learning to do as a coach. I've been coaching less time than you two probably, but just from watching other coaches go about their business while I was playing, and alongside people like Dave, watch how other people do it. Certainly, that's the one thing I always try to come back to. And you could be working with two players and do the same drill, but they both have very different aims for the session. And as a coach, that's the skill of the coach, is working out how do we tick both boxes for both players. That's what I find the most satisfying part about coaching now. Obviously, because I'm not playing, it's less about outcome on the pitch. But as a coach, can you prepare as many of the players in your team as possible to go out and be happy and be confident going out to the middle and doing the business.
No, that's fantastic. And actually, that's, like I say, it's interesting because you have a really good perspective on things and understanding. Like, whenever I've coached with Riles, I think we supplement each other quite well as coaches, because we like an environment where it's competitive, it's challenging, but for everyone. So we talk about times like we have a lot of discussions within the group that we work with about, tell me if I'm wrong, tell me if you think I'm wrong. Let's have these conversations. Like, we've had the benefits, both of us had the benefits of hindsight, thinking, right, what did I not do enough when I was younger? Have conversations about cricket. And you said, Ros, if you could go back and have your time again, you would have potentially considered asking Treaders a bit more while you were playing with him. So it's now our job to say, right, how do we get these players, like Ros said, what does improvement look like? The output is their performance on the pitch, but the factors behind that performance are huge. There's a long list of them. It's not just running in, bowling the ball, hitting the ball out the ground. It's about preparing the right way. It's about being confident in your skill set. It's about knowing your skill set. And I think it's interesting because a lot of people take time to get those skills. And you've made that transferability very quickly. You've transferred from coaching to playing, but from playing to coaching very quickly and very easily. What does the future look like for Mr. Riley? Celebrating Charlton not getting relegated is probably going to be the first one.
I was going to say, you said that we supplement each other quite well, apart from the fact that you're a Millwall fan, which means we'll never truly be friends, Dave. I didn't mean that. Sorry, I didn't mean that. I didn't hate Millwall. What does the future look like? Well, hopefully some more coaching outside of lockdown. But not trying to look too far ahead at the moment, especially having just moved into coaching, trying to get my teeth stuck in at Dulwich. At the moment, trying to deliver the cricket program there. Hopefully, we'll be able to get back to school and do some form of cricket. But that will sort of take care of itself, I assume. And obviously, just got back involved with Ken at an age group level, which I'm really enjoying. So just keeping lots of doors open. Really, I'd like to stay at Dulwich for a while and create something really exciting there.
Has there been anything with the transition from players to a coach? Has there been anything that you've kind of come across or it's hit you that you weren't expecting? Whether it be in how you're delivering it or how you're going about interacting with the players. Has there been like a bit of a shock to being, I wasn't expecting this feeling or that sort of thing?
Yeah, good question. I guess a bit like the point I was just making, it was coming back to the fact that you have to understand as a coach very quickly what each player wants. So as a player, you know what you want. So therefore you try and dictate to the coach to facilitate your practice. But as a coach, you're trying to work out what all 10, 15, 20 boys in this group want. And trying to juggle that as a coach, but outwardly look like you're calm. I guess that's the biggest challenge that I've noticed. Being in charge of a group of boys. A lot of the coaching I did when I was playing was as like a sub-coach or a co-coach or assistant coach, whatever you want to call it. But as soon as you become like the head coach organising the session, lots of different challenges that you have to try and juggle at the same time and deliver a quality session. So I guess that was the biggest challenge that I've come across so far.
And don't worry to all the EPP lads that are listening to it. I'm working very hard to get Riles back in again next year to hopefully stop me from talking so much and let those guys do a bit more running. But
that's just a given.
Well, yeah, even if I'm not leading the session, you'll get a few words out of me. But no, I want to go just quickly. I'm going to ask a few quick fire questions, really quick.
Here we go.
A few quick fire questions, like one word answers potentially or one name answers, and then I've got a question to ask everyone just to finish on. So, which is about the best bit of advice you've ever been given. So have a think about that while I'm asking these. Quick fire. Best batsman you ever bowled at?
Kevin Peterson.
That's
Name drop.
That's good. The problem is I ask this question, I want to follow them up. All right, best bowler you've ever faced?
A lot of good ones. Morne Morkel.
Oh, love the Saffers. Quickest bowler you've ever faced?
Can I have three?
Okay.
Big name drops. Tymor Mills.
Yeah.
Sean Tate. Mitchell Johnson. Boff. Boff. Yeah, big name drops.
Favourite fielding position?
Used to be slip, now gully.
Gully. Settled. Okay. Idol growing up?
James Treadwell.
Best coach?
Richard O'Sullivan.
Best football team in Bermondsey?
No clubs play in Bermondsey that I want to mention on this podcast.
I was trying to make it flow so that it went into that. Any quick fire questions from you, Buzz? I think I'm running out of them, to be fair. Best moment in cricket. It'd be a bit longer than that, but best moment that you've had in cricket, like from a player.
Best moment in cricket, probably taking my first fifer for Kent.
Who was that against?
Hampshire. End up being 7 for 150.
I think I remember those stats. I remember that. Not the 150 part. I remember the 7 wickets.
The
one question that I think every spinner needs to know is obviously you've taken a lot of wickets. You've taken, I imagine, some amazing deliveries where it's just turned, it's bounced, it's ripped. Taking the outside edge, you're putting the inside edge. Everyone knows as a spinner, you take, or not just you, but as a general, spinners take some really ugly, dogged, crappy delivery. Is there a specific wicket that stands out to you, or a delivery where you released it, you're thinking, oh my God, and it's ended up being a success?
There was I mean, it's amazing you say that because there's always one wicket that springs to mind. Like even things like that. It was a 2020 game. I can't remember who the batsman was. My memory is usually really good. I can't remember who the batsman was, but as I let it go, it was almost like embarrassment because it was like short, but also so far down the leg side. It probably it would have just spun off the track and the batsman would have looked at it as if to say, what is that? Thankfully, he ran down the wicket and it spun past him. Well, it didn't spin past him. He was so far away from it because it was one on the pitch. And I think it might be Billings or Jonesy till off the bails, and everyone comes down and they say, "What a great bit of bowling! Like, did you see?
Class.
How did you know to chuck it down the leg side?" And I'm thinking, "You've got no idea how I felt will come out my hand."
Pass
you can
bowl the best ball, it comes out your hand.
That's a beautiful delivery, and it goes for 6.
Goes for 6. It's the way forward.
You can bowl a ball and you think, "Can I just rewind 3 seconds and not let that ball go?" But it gets your wicket.
It's an unforgiving game.
Funny old game.
It is. Anyone you've bowled at besides Peterson that you've gone, wow, like you've just gone and I don't know how to get you out. If there's a few, you can just name a few.
Yeah, but that means more name drops.
Well, that's what we're all about. If there's any link to Virat Kohli, that's what we need. We need to put his name in the description. No,
Virat Kohli. I did bowl at Virat Kohli. He hit me into Nackington Road.
There's the title.
Yeah, he hit me for 6 in Nackington Road. I always remember the guys that hit me for 6, like Peterson. I remember playing him in a T20 game at the Oval. And like, I think he blocked the first ball as if to say, like, "I've never seen this bloke before. I'm going to watch him for one ball." And then next ball ran down, hit me into pavilion. And then next ball to the square boundary. I remember thinking, I need to get this bloke off strike because this could get messy. He's always the one that comes to mind. I remember when Graham Smith as well, it's that South African theme actually.
Yeah.
When he was at Surrey, I remember bowling at him and he just kept whacking it through mid wicket off stump. And I kept scratching my head thinking, not quite sure how you're doing that because these balls are spinning away from the bat.
I've dropped a lot of names in the last 5 minutes. I don't want to drop any more.
No, don't worry.
Maybe the tactic against ones probably that I remember going against and thinking,
yeah, I'd avoid going down that route anymore. So yeah, final question, and as one I'm interested to find out from maybe people listen as well. It helps them. What's the best bit of advice you've ever been given, and what would you pass advice to someone else, or have you got some bit of advice off the back of that you'd like to give anyone else?
I always quite like the harder you train, the luckier you get.
Oh, I like that.
As a bit of a real like cliche Instagram saying, if you like.
Yeah.
I think it's true. I think the harder you do train, generally you earn your luck that way. I don't know. I think that's quite a nice way to finish it. To be honest.
No, perfect.
I think we've covered quite a lot in terms of what I think about young spin bowlers and what they should be doing. But I guess most importantly, the reason why I said Rich O'Sullivan was my favourite cricket coach is because he was the one that introduced me to cricket. And got to like it. And I think if you're enjoying playing the game, it becomes far easier, doesn't it?
Yeah. That's
the reason why us three still involved in cricket, choose to coach cricket, still play cricket.
In quarantine, start a podcast about cricket.
It's because we love it. If you don't love it, you don't.
Well, this is it. We've said it to multiple people. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. If you are playing cricket past the age of 15, you are a badger. It's whether you're proud enough to kind of say that out loud or not. But we all are. There is a unique feeling of standing in the field for an entire day with a bunch of blokes and just going,
very average blokes half time as well. You're standing in the field going, any other circumstance, I wouldn't choose to stand next to this person, but it's brilliant. You love it. They become your best mates in the summer. You spend every day with them in the summer.
Cricket is such a unique sport in the fact that you can share a dressing room with 11 blokes that you would not give the time of day on the street.
you wouldn't even crack your
you put them in a dressing room together and you just have the best time ever. Amazing. It's an amazing sport.
From all walks of life. Well, I'll say this: if we ever get outside again, thank you for coming today, Skip. I'm targeting that spot in that first team. Go from the 5th to the first team in 1 year. But no, honestly, it's Raj. Thank you so much for today, mate. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk. I've got so much out of that it's crazy that we know each other well and we spend a lot of time coaching each other, obviously playing at the same club. But I don't think we've ever really sat and spoken in that sort of depth about anything. And that's amazing because we do both like a chat. So surprised about that. But no, mate, thank you so much. Stay safe throughout lockdown to you and Casey as well. Hopefully your mum and dad are well too.
And to you guys. Stay safe.
Good luck with all of the sessions you're doing with Dulwich and Ken. And Buzz, thank you so much for today again, mate.
No, thank you, mate. Thank you. I was really enjoying just going on what Dave just said. It's just great to sit down and talk about game, spin bowling and things like that, just from a different